It had been a different day at Gran and Granddad's. Katie discovered that an old apartment had really high ceiling. Orbie found out that if you wished to sleep in the closet, you might need a chair to reach the clothing bar. And they both learned that highly polished wood floors make for great sock-sliding fun. When Katie woke up in the morning, she found the bed at Granny's was so high off the ground that she had to jump to get down. She and Orbie tiptoed down the hall. They found Dad sitting on the couch, looking out the window. Katie and Orbie climbed up beside him. Dad put his arms around the two friends and looked at the apartment. He told them that this was where he grew up. He was a little boy here, and he had been thinking about that. It was hard to imagine Dad as a little boy, but they tried. He was thinking of the fun things that he used to do. Katie and Orbie wanted to know what they were. Dad smiled and asked them to follow him. In the bathroom, they found a gigantic old tub. It even had feet. He told them that when he was little, he used to swim in the bathtub, and it wasn't hard for the friends to imagine what fun that would be. Then he showed them his favorite hiding place. He opened up the broom closet and pulled at the wall, and a little piece of wall moved. Behind it was a little space. Dad told Katie and Orbie it was actually for hiding valuable things, but he used to use it all the time. The friends knew that Dad couldn't fit in that hiding place anymore. Then Dad took them to the banister. He used to climb on the banister at the landing and slide all the way down. He told them most apartments don't have 2 floors, but sometimes the ones at the top of the buildings do. As they walked back to the couch, Dad told them that he had all kinds of very happy memories of growing up in the big city. It was quite different from their neighborhood back home. He told them that he would take them for a walk and show them. Then he added that he would introduce them to his most delicious childhood memory ever. Katie and Orbie couldn't wait. After lunch, they walked down the busy downtown streets. They passed by a huge pet store that had a doghouse in it that was so big, Dad said there was room for a car. They passed a dress store and one that sold all kinds of electronic machines and games. Dad said he spent a lot of time looking in that store window when he was younger, wishing for something called a transistor radio. Of course, he said that was before CDs and cassette recorders were invented. Orbie wanted to know if the transistor radio was Dad's most delicious childhood memory, but Dad chuckled and just said, "Follow me," and off they hurried. They passed stores that sold fruits and flowers and some that sold shoes. There was even a bookstore where Dad used to buy his books when he was a little boy. Even though he tried very hard, Orbie still could not really imagine Dad as a little boy. It was even harder for the two friends to imagine what the most delicious treat might be. But I have to say, they had fun trying. Next, Dad told them that they were going to have what Granddad used to call a squeeze picture. A squeeze picture is taken in a little tiny booth that has a camera that takes a photograph of you. There wasn't very much room inside, and Orbie couldn't see a camera anywhere. Dad said that when the little light was green, they all had to squeeze together to get their faces into the photo. Well, there were shrieks and giggles coming out of the booth, a whole lot of flashes, too. And when the photos were finally ready, they came out in a long strip. Dad and Katie and Orbie looked at them and laughed about each one. They looked really funny. Dad checked his watch. It was definitely time for his most delicious childhood treat. Katie and Orbie were bursting with curiosity. Was it jelly beans or hot dogs or cake? Dad told them they weren't even close, but they would find out soon enough. Soon they came to a building with 2 gold poles at the front. Dad looked at it, and Katie and Orbie looked up at it, too. Dad grinned, and he told them that it hadn't changed at all. He opened the tall doors, and Katie and Orbie scooted in. It was an old-fashioned ice cream parlor. Ice cream, the two friends said and tooted. The parlor had high ceilings and big booths to sit in. The giant menus were taller than Orbie, and the smell was yummy. But Dad whispered that it wasn't just ice cream. Katie and Orbie just couldn't wait. The owner, Mr. Minsky, came right over to them and gave Dad a big hug. He was thrilled to meet Katie and Orbie, and he asked all about Mom. He told Katie and Orbie that he had known Dad ever since he was 6. He sat them down in Dad's favorite place and asked Dad if he wanted the usual. Dad told him, "Oh, yes." Mr. Minsky went to make it, and Dad turned to Katie and Orbie, and he told them this was going to be the absolute treat of treats. Soon they discovered what Dad's most delicious childhood treat was. It was 3 enormous hot fudge sundaes with piles of whipped cream on top. Dad said, "Are you ready for the best thing that you've ever tasted?" The 2 friends nodded that they were. And Orbie was so excited that he could barely hold onto his spoon and get into that ice cream. Mr. Minsky told them to enjoy, and enjoy they did. They each scooped up a big spoonful. As they put their spoons into their mouths, they all went, mmm. The sundaes were warm, cold, chocolatey, and vanilla, and almost chewy. They were absolutely delicious. Dad told them that these were the best hot fudge sundaes on earth, and nobody had to tell Katie and Orbie. They knew from the first bite. When they were all done, they thanked Mr. Minsky and walked back to Granny and Granddad's apartment. At the apartment, Mom asked them what they had liked the best. Katie and Orbie and Dad looked at each other, and they all said exactly the same thing at the same time. Hot fudge sundaes. Then everybody laughed and laughed. Oh, and a few days later, everybody went to Mr. Minsky's to make sure that they were right. This time, the whole family agreed that having a hot fudge sundae was one of the very best things to do in the big city. And if you ever visit the place where your parents grew up, I bet you'll discover some of the wonderful things that they used to do when they were children, too, just like Katie and Orbie did.
Did you know? Cartoons are made up of hundreds of pictures. When an artist draws a cartoon of a man walking, he does a whole bunch of drawings. Each picture is slightly different, and when the pages are flipped, the cartoon looks like it's moving. You can make your own cartoon by drawing similar pictures and flipping them back and forth.